Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, officially off season, which means we get to talk about whatever the fuck we want. And it was my choice, and so we're talking about NBA, which is kind of dominating a lot of my week this week as I'm kind of going through and thinking hard about my numbers, starting to think about matchups, starting to think about prices. In this episode, we're going to talk a lot of like the lay of the land currently, and we're going to go through an exercise where Andy's going to pick specific matchups at specific stages, and I'm going to give him my fares, and we can talk through, whether those will actually manifest.
We might have to do too.
Yeah, so good.
Because we're getting to the stretch run here. Once we get to April, we're gonna have some more. And yes, we will. Anyone who's worried, we will talk plenty of draft, combine, free agency, coaches, scheme changes. We have a lot of time for that, but we're gonna dabble in whatever we want. And I think maybe we'll re-release a couple of the good NBA episodes from last year. Yeah. Once we get closer to the playoffs, the one we did the shipper, that was great.
Yes.
Just a really good conversation. He had a lot of good insights on that.
Some good old ones with Spooner.
Yeah, we've done some good NBA ones. No thanks to me, but and truthfully, so I haven't watched an entire NBA game yet this year.
Even though your team's in first.
From start to I've caught some Timberwolves. I'm not gonna say I'm like avoiding it, but I haven't sat down and watched an entire NBA game. I haven't gone to one yet. With football, I don't have time, but I'm going to try to make it up to a couple games yet.
Hey, I had dinner with Shipper, by the way, in Las Vegas at Momofuku at the Cosmopolitan. Absolutely a great time. Although he and Jay were drowning their sorrows for the DeMar Hamlin loss, and it was that was something.
Yeah, I don't want to call him out because he's a nice guy. But when Matthew Berry reposted that the other day, Matthew, that's just mean at this point. Yeah. It's a good tweet and it's funny for everyone but Jay and his family.
They won, but it goes the difference between a 6-figure night and a 7-figure night was specifically Joe Flacco winning comeback player of the year. So that was a tough one.
A couple people took it in the shorts there, but back to my original point in the NBA. So I said, all right, Drew wants to do an NBA thing. I have all this golf stuff I'm prepping for Mexico. I have all this football stuff I'm working on in the back end. I'm like, I'm going to take an hour and catch up on the NBA. And what the fuck would I do that? I'm just gonna read an article
this is the hour
second half storyline, so I can kind of sound I'm gonna come in here like some of you guys are, where you spent the last 6 months very focused on football. I'm not saying I'm gonna go bet a bunch of NBA or build an NBA player level model, but I'm gonna let you catch me up a lot more. So I'm coming in super blind, and I'm not living under a stone. I know, yes, the Timberwolves are good. The Clippers have been good. The Thunder, obviously, the East is a little less wide open at the top. I think there's just the one team kind of trouncing around. There's some good teams in the East. We'll get into that, but
before we get into that, Gelati wants to know: 1 shot, 1 kill for Mexico. Carl, you on?
Carl, it's Johnny. It's Johnny Vegas.
Oh, it is Johnny Vegas.
He's playing himself back into form.
Johnny Vegas. Okay.
He kind of a shitty putter, but man, he hits the ball so hard. He hits the ball just club head speed for miles, and he can hit his long irons crack of the bat shit where it just flies. I've stood very close to him when he's hit his irons. He's just such a strong swinger. Mm-hmm. Nobody uses terminology like that, I guess. Sure. But I'm going to.
You got pretty close with your Zalatoris call last week. That was close. If only you could put. Yeah. And Matsuyama was just.
What are you gonna do in Matsuyama?
What are you gonna do?
That was my. Geez, that got dark, Andy, in my head. I was gonna say I watched Oppenheimer on the way out. It's karma for enjoying that movie, I guess.
There you go. That's exactly what it is.
But Matsuyama went nuts. That was it's a really good one. And that's a different kind of tournament. This is hit the ball a long ways, be good with your long irons.
We're about a month away from them. We're about a couple weeks away from them honoring the shit out of that movie in Los Angeles. So it was only fitting that that Matsuyama went nuclear in Los Angeles as a prelude. Yeah.
You're not super. I feel like you're well traveled enough where you've dealt with this though in cold weather cities. We had to de-ice before departing for San Francisco.
Yeah.
So sometimes the line is just long. So legitimately, we left 45 minutes later than we were slated to.
Oh yeah,
So
sure.
I was able to watch all of Oppenheimer and all of Dunkirk on the flight out. And then the flight back was like
age well for you?
Dunkirk was good.
Yeah, aged well. Like, had you seen it before?
I had, but I didn't.
Okay.
I felt like I was doing one of those where you're kind of half-ass watching it on your phone.
Yeah, I saw Dunkirk in the IMAX, and I saw it at home a second time, and I loved it the second time. I was like, that was kind of
Oppenheimer's
that kind of convinced me not to fuck with the IMAX for Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer's
so I have
a
yet to
good
see
airplane
Oppenheimer.
play.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it's a good airplane movie. I wouldn't have gone.
This guy
to
shot it on 70 millimeter IMAX or something specifically to watch it on a big screen with the sound, and you're like, loved it on the airplane.
Well, it's like, oh yeah,
amazing.
You know what you really need in 70 millimeter, and with the high end sound in the IMAX, you need congressional hearings.
Yes,
that's what that's what I want. No,
this would be like you telling me that, dude, we had a great time in Napa. The Josh that you get there is even better than the Josh that you get at the grocery station. It's like, dude, you're in Napa. No, but how was your trip to Napa? Out of curiosity.
Good.
You got up to the first stage of sommelier of expertise. You're a Somm one.
I understand why you need to be from Somalia to understand wine. Yeah, we had some good tastings. I will say I am going to the IMAX theater Sunday. I have a single ticket in the middle of the theater to watch Dune 2. Will be
that's gonna be sick.
Chastity belt, so I don't get weird with the popcorn bucket. But no, shout out to my brother, who's not a listener of the podcast, so it doesn't matter. I can say fuck you, Tim. Little bit of OCD. Now I'm going to talk shit about him. Little bit of OCD over, like he had the trip planned, all the tastings like prepaid and like spaced out pretty decent, and left rooms for lunch, and he made reservations well ahead of time for some restaurants every night. And then just like, hey, here's I'll Venmo you for half. I got the car, I got the house, I got everything. It was kind of like having a fucking travel agent for free because he didn't take a commission. So good job by him. We went to a bunch of good places. Like I said, Cake Bread, Duck Horn was nice.
Awesome.
Close to Val was small but good.
Clos du Val, yeah.
Clos du Val. It means valley within a valley because that's the beauty of the valley. Loved all those places. We saw
you guys hit some of the you hit some of the big names. Those are some big names.
The cave I can't think of now.
Pine Ridge. Yeah, Pine Ridge. Yeah,
Pine Ridge was cool, but the wine was mid. Some good eats. Ate at the sushi place downtown. ate at one of the Italian places. It's just downtown Napa's nice.
All Big Reds.
I did, like I said, I did some whites here and there, but mostly it's just like 80% cabs and then 20% Malbec Merlot and a few blends, and then like 1 or 2 glasses of white when we were downtown. But yeah, I can't recommend that enough if you have want to take the missus on a trip. Just get drunk and eat.
What was their favorite spot?
She liked Cake Bread a lot too.
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
They just great. Great. We just had a great tour guide, and the wine was good, and it was the first one, so you're not like wined out by that point yet.
Yeah,
we did go to that grocery store in Rutherford. Yeah, where there's just like a Mexican counter in the back of the store where they just make like fresh.
The Sunshine Market or something.
Yeah, La Luna. You're saying sun, it's moon. Yeah, that was very, very good. But I'm glad I'm home. I'm glad. And I did buy I'll wear the hat next time. I should have brought the hat. I did buy a just ridiculous hat. That's what I do on vacation.
Well, farm, I mean, it's a pretty fun experience. I'm glad you got to go. I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a few years. It hasn't changed. It's still there.
Yeah. They got some good stuff right now. They're pouring some good stuff. If you do go, definitely ask for the 2018s. In my opinion, they're ready to drink now.
That's what we got. That's why Cake Bread was good, I think, because we got a couple.
Oh yeah,
we got to reserve 18 at the end. Dude, it's like, oh, this is the best.
He's like, oh, what? This is the best one I've had all. Oh, this is the best one I'm gonna have all year, probably. It's probably what's that? $150.
Oh, I do want to shit on one. Peju.
Oh yeah,
which I like their wine, but they for some reason just don't do. It's only reserved tastings. You can't walk in there and just Like the last time we were out, there's a couch out in the vineyard. You just sit on the couch and have a wine. You can't do that anymore. So we drove all the way over there, and they're like, "Oh, you can't do that.
Need a
So
reservation."
yeah.
That is actually if you find yourself next time. Yeah, there's a couple places that still have it the old way. That I try to make sure I give them my business when I'm up there because I appreciate that. I'll send you the list.
I like the joints that do the little tasting rooms downtown too.
Sure.
You go try a few
that's
and like maybe I want to go out to this winery. So
yeah, and like maybe I don't want a flight. Maybe you just pour me a whole glass of something that I know that I want that that I will like. But yeah, that's cool, man.
What is the one that starts with M? Longer name.
McCamus or
Monocamus, something like that.
Maya
Camus.
Why is it? Yeah,
my account. Whatever. It's right off first.
It's that's like the OG boutique wine. Yeah.
This is going to be the weirdest recommendation because it's not going to be wine. And I have 3 other parties who would swear on the Bible and attest to this. We went in there, just got flights of, some big reds, like you said, but they also, as most do, will give you water.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best water I've ever had in my entire life. And to the point where we asked the guy about it, like, "Are you fucking with us? This is like imported and you're putting it in your, in your big," he's like, "No, man." He's like, "This is just local water, but we do some filtration and we hit it with the UV lights." I don't understand. Like the whole rest of the trip, we talked about that. We every time we'd go everywhere else, we'd be like, "Oh, this water's so fucking mid compared to that place." None of the waters lived up to that place. It was the first place we started. So
incredible.
Yeah, if you're in the Discord, I'll and you have any questions
pop
about
that
the
itinerary in there.
we'll have a little more time via text. But we'll get into the NBA. When do the playoffs start, Drew?
Oh, well, before moving off, I thought of something funny. You said you're going to Dune and you're going to wear a chastity belt, so that you're not. It's not because you're going to buy the Dune popcorn thing, which looks like a fleshlight. That was the background of that joke. If you're wondering what in the fuck we're talking about, rather than chastity belt, cosplay, man. Wear the Sting cod piece. I mean, that basically is a chastity belt. That thing is what? It's steel, right? It's definitely metal.
Are we mixing David and Dennis here? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Dune
canon
fandom.
Is canon.
Dune fandom. Yeah, right. Yeah, there's no wrong way to celebrate Dune, from what I can tell you. Hopefully there'll be some more worms in this one. All right, man. Let's talk some NBA for real. We're 13 minutes in. We've talked wine. We've talked movies. It's the off season, guys. Welcome to the podcast.
Patrick says I can't think of anything nerdier than dressing up for a movie. So one final note.
If you own a Sting cod piece, you might as well wear it.
I don't think David Lynch would care. So I went. Our cruise line of choice is the Disney cruises.
Okay.
And I will go on record saying the parks are worse than anything Dante described. Like it is hell on earth. Even if you have fast pass, I do not care for the parks. Epcot I can live with, but the cruise lines are very well staffed. It's just perfect. Like the level of service is so good, and the kids love it because I have children.
Yeah,
we're going again.
Drink.
Yeah, we're going again this year.
Do they overserve?
So remember, Disney bought Star Wars.
Yeah.
And every cruise ship has 2 movie theaters, which it's awesome. It's just free. You just walk into the movies and watch movies whenever you want, obviously, if they're on. And it was one of the 3rd trilogy of the Star Wars was playing in there. And it was the first cruise ship where they had a Star Wars Day at Sea. And there were so many fucking people dressed up, that didn't work there. Like grown ass people who did not bring kids. And just showed up because they needed to be on the first Disney Star Wars cruise, like very high level outfits. Like shit was. They made a really rule
at Disneyland you're not allowed to dress up anymore. If you're
this was on a boat. It was different.
It's international waters, right? Yeah. Oh, good God.
Yeah. There's no rules. It was something. It was like Jesus. I'm uncomfortable around you people.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Should we even do NBA today?
Was the cruise ship like Jabba the Hutt? Was it a Jabba the Hutt yacht themed, kind of thing on the top? And
they had like phalanx isn't the right word for it, but like formations of stormtroopers like marching down the halls randomly. Like it was kind of intimidating. Like, fuck, am I in trouble? Like, but I mean, they just for effect, it was awesome. Like it was cool.
Incredible. All right. Well, if you have, I guess, what was the alcohol situation? Did they serve?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. All right, yeah. I mean, that's why Epcot is good, right? Because you can drink around the world.
Just get fucked up at Epcot.
Yeah, you just go to the beer garden and let the kids do whatever the rides are, I guess. All right, man. Good times.
I'm gonna pull up the NBA standings so I can get an idea. If I had to guess how many games have been played, I was going to say 60.
I think you're 55, a little low. 55. Yeah, that's a little high. I mean, we're at 50. Yeah, 55. We got 27-ish games left per team. It's pretty balanced schedule, right? I don't think there's any teams that have like huge differences with games remaining, but we got a lot of information, a lot of data on these teams, and I'll just kind of give you a snapshot of where we are, talking about some of the advanced stats if you're interested. You want to guess who the best team in the NBA is by net rating?
Celtics.
Yeah, and you want to guess by how much?
What is your net rating in? What's the scale for net rating?
Okay, so net rating is offensive rating.
Yep.
Minus defensive rating. Defensive rating is average is efficiency, so it's points per 100 possessions for your offense and your defense.
Both of those.
Yes, and so by the way,
by 4 points.
3. Oh, very good guess. Yeah, 3. Just about 3 exactly over your Timber Puppies, who are number 2 right now. Oklahoma City 3rd. The Cavaliers have launched themselves into 4th after a really lackluster start, so they are the hottest team in the NBA going. And the Clippers round out the top 5. There is a pretty decent disconnect between the favorites for conferences and the net rating, right? You notice in the top 5 we didn't mention the Nuggets. They're pretty far down the net rating actually right now. They're number 10. They would be, I think, 6th in the Western Conference so far based on performance, which is kind of telling you what you need to know about that team, which is they DGAF so far this season. They're just kind of
Chiefs in it.
They're Chiefs in it. They're pulling out enough to win, trying to stay healthy, not really like necessarily engaged, which, we can talk about the merits of that in a little bit. But a +3 net rating for the Nuggets is kind of pedestrian, honestly. Basically, this exact same team last year. Let me see what they ended up with. I'm pretty sure they were the number 1 net rated team, and it was like
how many games close.
Actually, the Nuggets were 6. Actually, the Nuggets are pretty close to where they were last year, actually. So I take it back. So they're basically doing what they did last year, but everybody else seems to be playing a little bit better. I guess what's interesting to me is that across the league, offensive efficiency is like all-time high, right? Like we
had all the guys scoring 70 points.
Yeah, you remember back in the day, like what was the best regular season NBA team you remember? This isn't even a trick question. It's pretty recent.
I mean, it would have been one of the Warriors teams.
Yeah, 73 win Warriors.
17. Yeah. When was that?
73 win Warriors.
Yeah, that was a good team.
Now, granted, they added Kevin Durant the next year and were even better.
I was going to say it's the Durant team.
Right? But just the way that they performed in the regular season. That team, offensive efficiency-wise, would be about middle of the pack this year. Considering how much the league has improved in terms of being able to generate points on offense. This is not even a defensive effort thing. It's literally just running better offense and creating better opportunities and having a better idea using analytics where to have players on the floor, which players thrive doing what roles, and just an increased ability of like guys who can handle the ball and create offense. And like it's just we're in the golden age of NBA offense. In my opinion,
people figured out spacing.
Yeah, spacing is now.
There was teams 2-3 years ago where I remember. I'm not making this analysis. This is me. Parroting things that Drew was getting mad about, where it'd be teams like, hey, you have the right players and your scheme fucking sucks. You haven't figured out anything. You're running these, for whatever formations, plays where there's no spacing and you're taking a mid-range jumper. Like you're in 2006. I'll ask questions, but finish your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so basically, like, kind of to put a bow on it, the Celtics are on pace right now to have an offensive efficiency this year that's 121 plus. Um, Last year's Sacramento Kings set the all-time record at 119. The year before, I think, record was set by the Utah Jazz at like 116. So the ceiling of like offense is just getting completely ripped off the roof
So that
here.
it'll be even funnier when they lose to the Heat in 6.
Yeah, I mean the Heat. Yikes,
Yeah, I know.
they're in a tough spot right now. But this all begs the question, which is like, what do you do with these numbers? How do you weave them into
Well,
kind of an
that's my
understanding of
question
playoffs?
about defense. It's like it does take two to tango,
Yeah,
and
sure.
we always do this in the NFL where it's like, all right, hey, these, especially Mahomes, but we'll lump in some other good offenses like they're doing this. So two high safeties, two high shell. It's always a chess match. Sometimes the chess matches within the game, within drive. Sometimes it's several years between moves. And we see, not only the defensive coordinators, the schemers, the coaches putting these things together, and then the offense is obviously adjusting. Usually it's not the offense is adjusting to them, but Goodell makes a rule change. And the defense has to figure out again. But, it does go back and forth. And that's where I'm wondering about the defense. That'll be my take from what I've watched highlight-wise. There's only two people playing defense in the league, and they're both French.
That's a very good take, man. It's not about playing defense, but there's two players that are excelling at rim protection. And if you have an absurd rim protector with the length of a Gobert or a Wemby, then that kind of
the chastity belts.
if you've got protection, then that kind of unlocks just better team defense overall.
Sure.
Your Timberwolves are kind of the standout defensively. Their defensive rating is 108.8, which is 8 points better than league average, which is it's only 7 points. 7 points better than league average, but that's a huge delta between the best defense and the average defense. And actually, now that I'm looking at all the ratings, like not just the Celtics are taking the roof off, but the Pacers are right there, the Clippers are right there, the Thunder are right there. There's 6 teams that I think would break the all-time efficiency record if these numbers hold, which is just pretty amazing. Other kind of just general observations. A lot of the I don't know, like we haven't even mentioned the Bucks yet. The Bucks were effectively co-favorites to start the season in the Eastern Conference with the Celtics. No one really. There was pretty clear split between like the vibes handicappers and the numbers guys as far as what the the Bucks roster shuffling was going to do. And the Bucks are kind of an interesting story in and of themselves, because they have taken apart their point of attack defense by moving on from Drew Holiday, but in doing so, they bring in Dame Lillard, who has given them a much higher ceiling offensively. So they've made a bet on just being able to kind of have end of series, end of game offensive dominance with Giannis and Lillard on the floor. And so far, the results don't look great. They're winning, but they're underperforming their expectations by a decent amount. I don't think that's shooting luck. I think it's just a little bit of an imbalanced roster. They fired their coach already. I don't know if you heard about this, but Adrian Griffin, who replaced Mike Budenholzer, already gone, even though he had an absurd winning percentage. You're muted, Andy.
there was somebody outside that was being loud. If NBA news is big enough to have lots of memes, I'm on it. Like I get that, especially when it's around Glenn, dude.
Yeah.
I guess let's take a quick. What do they call the little the thing that the train goes off a siding? A little side rail here. Little conversation.
Okay.
The quote about how he's like, "Oh, I was surprised they even called me." If you're his agent, do you like that or hate that? Because I went back and forth. It's like, what the fuck, dude? Why are you saying this?
I mean, it was a weird situation because he was getting paid as a consultant to help the existing coach kind of get his feet under him, right? That'd be like if you hired Gerard Mayo, and then the Patriots is a bad example. It'd be like if you it's like if you hired a new regime with a really untested, unproven commodity and Dave Canales for the Panthers, and then you as a middle owner bring in Belichick to help consult with Dave Canales, and then even though you're winning games a third of the way through the season, you're like, you know what? As long as we have Belichick here, let's just put him in charge. And you fire Canales and put, Belichick in charge. And then Belichick is out there saying, I didn't even see this coming.
Do you have a theory on the reasoning? It felt like because at first I went and looked at the records because I knew, I knew that the Dame signing was big and they were going to be a force in the East. We talked about that. So I went and looked at the records. I'm like, oh man, did I miss this? Are they like 8th in the fucking East or something? I'm like, why did he get fired? He's good. Like, did someone hate his guts?
No, I mean, I think when you have a really inexperienced coach like that, it's a delicate situation, and the players lost confidence pretty quickly. And the reality was the correct take in the moment after Dame Lillard got traded to the Blazers. I mean, but traded to the Bucks. The correct take was their window is 1 year.
Yeah.
Right. Like they must win now, which did not comport with Adrian Griffin figuring it out on the job. Right. Like that's not, it didn't make sense. The hire
why the firing and hiring of him didn't make a lot of sense.
Yes, right. Like honestly, if your window is 1 year, just might as well just stick with the guy who already won a title in Budenholzer. But whatever, he got beat by the Heat in the 1-8, and if you're a 1 seed and you lose to the 8 seed, you kind of automatically get fired. It was even though ultimately the Heat weren't a real 8, they were just an 8 in name only. Anyway, because they won the East last year, if you didn't remember. Like the team and in general, like particularly the leaders on the team and Giannis, I would say, maybe some Brook Lopez, maybe some Lillard, they lost confidence in Griffin, particularly what he was asking them to do defensively, because their defense has been miserable. Now anyone again with 2 brain cells who follows the NBA and looks at, I don't know, EPM or Darko is like, you took away your point of attack defender and you put in Dame Lillard and you're surprised your defense sucks. Like that's the trade-off you made. Like that's the best bet you made. Like you should have kind of expected this. And so I am very, very cold on the Bucks having any answers in the playoffs. And in fact, I think their defense is such a problem that they look entirely likely to be an early out again and not ever really realize whatever the bet they've made on their offense being effective at end of series, end of game. And nothing I've seen from Doc Rivers so far says he has the answers for them defensively. He's basically just try harder. That doesn't work. Like you're structurally broken. Like this is not an effort thing. So we'll see.
What if we use this bad game plan but harder?
Yeah, that's kind of
do it even bigger.
Yeah, it's kind of like we call it it has whiffs of like Steelers offense being broken vibes, right? Like no amount of rah Mike Tomlin getting you fired up is going to help the fact that your offense is structurally fucked. And so that's kind of the state of the Bucks, and that's why the East is basically just Celtics. Like forget it. I kind of am surprised they're still plus money to win the East, if we're being honest. I think my numbers for them are closer to 150, 160. Oh, minus 165, excuse me. So I'm way high on Celtics. And there are some like there are two like red flags with the Celtics, right? Like they still have shown at times this year that the players themselves are not necessarily how we want to say it, the most clutch in end of game situations against elite teams. Like there's still some clunky offense. There's still some possessions where you're like, man, what in the fuck? There's still some leads that they blow that you're like, how did you blow this lead? But
I'm a Timberwolves fan.
Yeah, right. But you're calling card. Like they're a super team in terms of talent. Like there's almost nothing I've ever seen on paper that's been this good going back to like the Durant Warriors. Like, and they're well balanced. They have multiple, they have switchability on defense, elite defenders at point of attack. Derek White has gotten better this year. Kristaps Porzingis is kind of the perfect fit to improve their situation. Like last year, they were running out Al Horford and Robert Williams. Now they got Porzingis if he's healthy, and that is a huge step forward in terms of.
Well, it's a huge question mark. That was the big fucking argument in our in our NBA chat when that happened. I think that factions were created that day where it was like either, oh my God, this Team of Destiny, or like, do you expect Porzingis to play? Do you expect him to be around in the playoffs? Is that a thing that is feasible, could happen? So is it that simple? If he's not hurt, they're in the finals. And even if he is, it's probably like 50-50 they're in the finals.
Yeah, but I mean, they have two red flags. The first is end of game offense, and that kind of marries with the coaching, right? And then the second is health of Porzingis, because if Porzingis gets hurt, and then now they're all of a sudden real lean on bigs. And so we'll see what happens. It's funny, a final thought on the Celtics, because there are talking heads who are running out of what to say about the NBA because there's no games being played, who are making cases for Tatum as an MVP candidate this year. Stop it. He has gotten worse this year, if anything. Like, there's like his statistical profile is worse this year. Like, the team itself is better, but has nothing to do with Tatum stepping up his game in any way, shape, or form. If he ultimately gets realistic consideration for MVP, then I quit. Like, he is so far off the guys at the top of the chart right now. Actually, to find him on EPM currently. So EPM, by the way, is a good snapshot of how have you performed this year in terms of efficiency. Darko is a good snapshot of how can I predict you to perform and going forward in the future. That's just my general opinion. The how have you performed this year for Tatum? He's like 14th among players in the NBA in EPM plus minus right now, with a very pedestrian plus 4.8 by his standards. LeBron's been better. Paul George has been better. Jalen Brunson has been better. Anthony Edwards has been better. And he is a good 5 points.
And LeBron's
off of,
playing like
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
LeBron's playing like 33 minutes a game.
Is he playing that much? He's playing 35. Man. Whew. He's playing a lot. He needs to play a lot, though, because the rest of the Lakers kind of suck. All right, so the Celtics probably win the East. Are there any prices you're curious about between the Boston Celtics and any other teams? And the Celtics have basically locked up the 1 seed, which means teams got to go through Boston. Anyone else in the East you're curious about?
For some reason, I closed the standings. I mean, the fun one, especially if we're out in the Bucks, I guess a couple of the fun ones are, like you say, the Pacers with the offense, maybe the Cavs just because they've been good. But man, in the East, you go down. What are we going to do? Like, get excited about a Knicks Celtics is like a fun one for the shit media because it's Knicks versus Celtics. But I mean, that's Celtics. Actually, you know 5.
What? I just thought of this. Let's change the paradigm.
Sixers with Embiid healthy.
Who do we think is going to be the 8? Is it going to be Miami or Orlando? Like, there's a big gap between Orlando and
Bulls.
Big gap between Orlando and the Bulls.
Are we not doing the play-in tournament? Do they not get a chance?
No, they do. But they're going to have to win 2 games. They're not going to be the 7-8 is going to be likely contested between Miami and Orlando. Ironically, that will also determine who wins the Southeast, I guess. Unless I don't actually. This is something that I need to dig into.
Don't think the Hornets are coming back.
I don't know how they determine the Southeast winner. If it is a tiebreak at the end of the season, or if they're going to count the play-in game to determine to break the tie. They're probably going to do a tiebreak. So you could have a situation where Miami wins the Southeast and then loses 2 games in the play-ins and is not in the playoffs, which would be funny.
I mean, isn't there a scenario where they could be below? So they win the Southeast. They're the 7.
Mm-hmm. But they could lose to the Magic and lose to the Hawks, who are both in the Southeast, and be out of the playoffs despite finishing ahead of the 2 teams in their division.
Or they could lose the first one, win the second one, and be a lower seed than a team they beat for the division.
They very, very. In fact, that's kind of where my head is at.
I think
that's kind of what's going to happen. I think it's realistic. I think it's a fair bet right now on the. Let me see what.
There's tiebreakers. I just looked it up. Division winner wins tie from team. I mean, head-to-head, one loss, division 1 lost, conference 1 lost. Like, there's tiebreakers.
Yeah, and I think the Heat have the tiebreakers, which is why they're right now odds on to win the Southeast. But I have the Magic finishing ahead of them well over 50% of the time. So I think the Magic still can win the Southeast. If they tie with record, I think the tiebreaker probably goes to the Heat. That's kind of the one weird spot. All right. So Celtics, let's say the Celtics and the we don't want to mess with the Heat because coming up with a rating for the Heat in the playoffs is pretty freaking impossible. So you just gotta have to
just add 5 to it. Add 5 to everything.
Basically, let's pretend it's Orlando in the first round. Series price for me is going to be about Boston minus 1441. So I have the Boston going through the next round about 94% of the time against the Orlando Magic.
Teams don't lose to 8 seeds.
It never happens.
Unprecedented.
Never. I don't think I can't remember the last time.
So 2-7 is we don't want to price a Heat team. You know what? I'm putting the Bulls in the 7th spot. They can't.
Putting the Bulls in the 7th? No, stop it.
They're only 4 games back, you guys.
Let's assume, just for the sake of argument,
let's go Heat Cavs.
Heat Cavs? Okay. That's a fun one. That's a really fun one for a lot of reasons. Just because of matchups, you have 2
Cavs games hardly.
Yeah, you have 2 really similar, just in general, like the fabric of the teams is really similar, and you have a masterful coach in Spoelstra with the Heat, who are the worst team, and against Bickerstaff, who's got a weird little, just a really bad resume of coaching in high leverage situations, and so that's potentially one where you're going to get a price like Cleveland minus 450, and people are going to be talking themselves into the Heat, and that's going to be interesting. Yeah. So my fare on that one is right around 450. I can see the market kind of landing there for an opener there with Cavs Heat. Although if the Heat ultimately get the 7th seed, maybe they will have figured some stuff out there and they'll have a little bit better market rating by the time we get there. But there's a pretty big gap. I have Cavs winning that series 82% of the time.
We have the playoffs almost set here, guys. We don't even need the rest of the season. Drew and I will just put this together. All right, so this is the fun one because the Bucks will then have to fire 3 coaches in like 11 months here because the Bucks, like, what's your Bucks Pacers number?
It's a fun one.
Can't be great. Oh my god! An ad just keeps popping up on my phone for TaylorMade. Stop.
So this one is also a fun one because I believe they've had a couple of head-to-heads this year. One of them was in the play-in, and the Pacers won after their first head-to-head went hugely in favor of the Bucks.
I forgot about the in-season tournament. Like it feels like that was 2 years ago.
Off the top of my head, the Bucks were like 6 or 7 point favorites in that game. Maybe more.
I was so pissy about the loss. The Timberwolves lost to the Kings.
That was
Kings
bad.
are a good team, but like
that was bad.
That basically
Kings are a thorn.
That went from them winning the group to not qualifying. Like, I was pretty pissy about that because I had a bunch of Timberwolves bets.
No, that game was
Homer bets for sure.
It was on December 7th. It was on a neutral. So this gives you a good idea of what the market thinks about those 2 teams in a neutral situation and in kind of a high stakesy environment. So I'm going to pull up my numbers from that day and see what the market makers closed at.
We might have just coined a phrase, high stakesy.
High stakesy. High stakes-ish. Okay, so no, the Bucks actually only closed 5 point favorites in that game. So there was a little bit of respect for the Pacers at that time. And I think actually on a neutral, I'm not that far off still. I'm still like in the 3.5, 4 point range in terms of difference between these teams. Halliburton has absolutely emerged this year. Carlisle's doing a nice job of coaching the Pacers, but they still have some, and they traded for Pascal Siakam. You remember him from Toronto Raptors winning the title days. Pascal Siakam is now a Pacer. They're a pretty good and balanced team. And I think if the market's giving you anything in the ballpark of 3-1 or better in that series, which is possible, then I'm going to probably be on it. My fare is about 255 in favor of the Bucks in that one. And just again, for my fares, what I'm doing is taking all of the potential permutations of the series, right?
Yep.
Simming game 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if necessary 5, if necessary 6, if necessary 7. And I have a decay factor where we are reducing possessions from game 1 to game 7, adding in zigzags, adding in ref trends.
Ref trends.
Ref trends.
Yeah, like every game 6, we have to assume Oh God, I can't think of his name now.
Scott Foster is going to be the guy.
Who's the other
Foster,
guy?
The extender. Foster's the extender. Tony
Yeah,
Brothers.
Tony Brothers. Yeah.
Brothers is out for the playoffs. Did you see that? He got hurt. Yeah, he's got kind of
Oh man,
so
I gotta keep up my injuries.
So adjust your Bucks rating up because
so you only got one
not
extender.
Yeah, you only got there's probably some other guys. But the way I'm coming to that number is basically reducing offensive efficiency and possessions as we go through the series. I upweight your ability to create in isolation, and so even though I have a pretty decent rating on Indiana relative to what I think market's going to be, you're still asking them to find a way to get a very close series home, potentially on the road in a game 7 against Lillard and Giannis.
Yeah, I think
which is
like we're joking, but if you do have an underdog, like it has to be like if team leads 3-2, if team and I'm coding by mouth here, and team is less than 15 as far as market size rank.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to add you have to add some sort of game 6 caveat because that's where you throw them in. Like we're not letting Indiana beat the Celtics here, guys. Like we don't want that.
Yeah. So basically, it's going to be a tough if we get Bucks Pacers. It's going to be a really interesting and tough read on what to do because the value against market is going to be on the Pacers, but they're going to have to get it done in an ISO situation late in the series against
it's a 3-6 where the Bucks might be like 5 wins better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No question. Okay. So here's the other kind of interesting wrinkle. You ready for this?
Yes.
When they played in Vegas in the play-in tournament, the total was, you want to guess what the total was?
221.
257.
Oh God, what?
It was phenomenally big. I think we had some all-time. We set some records on totals. I think this year, like Hawks, Pacers, and stuff, have been just absurdly high numbers. This one was on a neutral floor with somewhat stakes, and biggest bet I made in the entire regular season was on the second half under in that game, and I think they gave us 120. It was like 120 high, I want to say, and the game was pretty clearly playing more like a playoff game kind of with a reduced possession of 129, closed 129, and I want to say there was the Bucks came in outscoring in the third, but ultimately ran out of gas. 43 plus 25 plus 28 plus 37. There were 133 points. 133 points. Maybe I had the full game under. I'm trying to remember how. No, there's no way that didn't hit. No, it didn't hit. I don't know. I'm tripping. Maybe it was the full game under that was the winner for me on that one. Anyway, my point in bringing all this up was the series is going to be priced with huge totals. And the idea of market catching up with the total reducing over the balance of the series, like there's kind of no way it can be right in that particular matchup. This says all of the whiffs of like Kings Warriors from last year, where the game 1 total closed like 240 and the game 7 total closed like 220 something, and it should have been like 212. It was like an 8-point miss or 8-point plus miss, because it was so much anchored to the game 1 total. But this has like all those whiffs. If we get that series, the late series, game 6, game 7 unders might be like the kind of play of the year type stuff.
You should be writing this down.
We'll recover.
We're recording.
We're going to cover this.
I can go back.
Yeah. I guess it was the full game under that I had in that one that was a winner, because the second half went over for sure, unless I did my math wrong, because the Bucks scored 43 in the third quarter. 128 and 119. It got to 247. So yeah, they missed the closing total by 10 points there. And I believe the possessions were a lot lower than what was projected, and that was kind of the entire reason. So fun one. What's 4 or 5?
Well, it's
New York
Sixers
versus Philly. All right, impossible.
Let's call and let's say health turns out better. Like, what are the odds the Sixers are just the 3 seed anyway?
Not good.
Like, and they're playing the Pacers instead. Instead of evaluating Knicks Sixers, let's put the Sixers where the Bucks were and talk Sixers Pacers.
Stop. You're asking the question in the wrong direction.
Oh, okay. They're
no, I'm saying this because like that would be a theoretical world where Embiid was healthy and played the whole season.
Yeah.
He's not going to play again.
All right, let's put,
if that, right?
Let's
like,
put
I think that's the world.
The Sixers in the 6th seed, and they play the Bucks then.
Yeah, that's kind of the more interesting question. Yeah. They could even slide into the 7-8, and it wouldn't shock me. Like, the Sixers are hosting the Knicks tomorrow, Andy.
Someone's asking about the trophy.
You want to guess?
A horse's ass.
What in the world do you have a horse's ass trophy?
I got it for
last place at the Myrtle Beach.
Last place in the putt contest.
The putt last place. They gave you a horse's ass trophy.
I paid $12 for it. You can just buy them at that place for funsies. But,
you're at you had the highest score. I didn't understand why you didn't win
that. Crumbled under nerves.
All right, man. So the Knicks are playing the Sixers tomorrow. It is in Philly. There is no Embiid. There is also no OG Anunoby. There is also no Julius Randle. So both teams missing key players. But the Julius Randle and OG Anunoby are probably coming back early March. Embiid is a guess, man. Like anybody's guess. He got the full-on meniscus surgery. I haven't seen him play. Haven't seen any reports in a long time. Realistic guess was like, I think we're looking at like a 6 to 8 week thing, which would put him kind of right around the beginning-ish of the playoffs, if at all. But with his size and his fitness concerns, is he going to be available? It's tough to say. So I can give you two prices. One is no Embiid. In which case the Knicks are, as a home favorite, are about minus 245. If Embiid plays, I would make the Sixers a small favorite, minus 107.
Julius Randle still on that team?
He is. He's actually a huge improvement. He's played much better this year than he has the last couple of years. Also, by the way, fun in that matchup, fun clash of coaching. Nick Nurse versus Tom Thibodeau. That's some old school, awesome defensive minds right there going head to head. So that's one where you might have totals in the 240s, 250s. Totals in the 220 highs, mid 230s. Actually, what's tomorrow's total?
When did you start saying 220 highs? I feel like this is very new.
I don't know. Right now,
you've done it like 3 times. I like it. Like I think it should be part of the kind of the.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think of NBA totals, I'm stepping in like half 10, like 5 point kind of steps, and so 220 highs would be my guess for a full strength New York Philly. Tomorrow is 226. So with OG Anunoby and Julius Randle, the defense would be a little bit better. With Embiid, the Sixers offense and defense is a lot better. So it'd still probably be in the mid 220s. And that's a series I could see playing in the 210s. So that would be a fun under series potentially.
Okay. Anything else on the Eastern Conference? Maybe the Eastern Conference outright prices before we flip over to the. Yeah,
let's. Who do you want in the? Who do you want Boston to go through in the second round? And I'll tell you, Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, let's assume Embiid. Yeah. Assume for the worst. Big guys like that, it's not like they get healthier as the years go on. Let's assume Knicks got through in 6.
My Celtics
skated. Celtics are going to be what, minus 650?
Pretty close. Really good guess. I'm at about minus 569. So pretty decent edge for Celtics in the second round. Cleveland, Milwaukee is kind of a weird one too. If that's your 2-3. Cleveland probably should be favored in that series, but I think the market's going to make make Milwaukee like minus 140-ish. That'd be my guess, right? You're going to have a road Milwaukee Bucks favorite team, kind of like Suns Nuggets from last year. That's my gut. So it's fun to kind of speculate on what will market hang relative to what is fair for these. I think is then that's one of them that I have kind of marked as a big difference. Like, I mean, I'm guessing that by looking at futures prices right now, right?
Sure.
Like the difference, like I have Cleveland rated as a better team than the Bucks. Period. Like that's actually not even really a huge controversial take.
But which team has the higher or the longer tail to be like, oh, we're getting it. Like
surely the Bucks,
the Bucks with just settling in with Glenn and getting there with two superstars. Like it's a thing. It can happen. I don't have a ton of faith in them right now. Just kind of tracking the shithousery that's happened since he's come on.
Okay. And the Cavs are 7-1 to win the East. The Bucks are 3-1. So pretty that tells you what, kind of price you might get on that series actually. It'd be big delta. Maybe it's going to be more like
good question from Matt Porter.
Yeah.
And remember I said this last week, we're tracking this shit. Top comments.
It's a really good question.
Top comments and questions are being put into little moleskin notebooks for next year's awards, which could happen at any time. You don't know what week we'll be doing those. Who is generally the biggest threat to the Celtics in the East in a 7-game series? My answer, it might be just the easiest answer is just the Cavs.
I think it is. I think it's the
Cavs. I like to answer the question as a non-expert, then let you either agree or be like, well, Andy.
It's a toss-up for me between the Cavs and a full-strength Sixers team with Embiid.
That's 100%. That's a caveat that brings in an MVP level player.
Yeah, exactly.
That does help. I would agree that if you are able to bring in one of the best 3 players in the league, your team is going to get better.
Yeah,
especially if he's got that huge ass.
Actually,
moves people with it.
Like the big kind of a door being open. So in order for the door to be open for any team against the Celtics, it starts with the coach. Like you got to have a coach that can outcoach Missoula. And there's plenty of them in the mix. Nick Nurse is one of those, surely. Eric Spoelstra is one of those, surely. I don't think Doc Rivers is, based on what we saw with Sixers Celtics Game 7 last year. But Bickerstaff is a little bit of a wild card. Don't know what you're going to get from him in a playoff series, just because his opening salvo into playoffs last year was really, really uninspiring. Against, I think it was Knicks in 5 over the Cavs in the 4-5 last year, and his team kind of ran out of gas as the season went on. He didn't have any of the answers, so I'm not sure what you're going to get from Bickerstaff. But from a talent and a team composition standpoint, it is the Cavs.
Answering my own question, is it Joe Mazzulla?
Yes.
Coaching does become so big.
Yes. It's Joe. Yeah, the biggest threat to the Celtics are themselves. Themselves coaching themselves out of a series, or themselves not managing the injuries of Porzingis and the load management of Porzingis correctly, so he's available for all 3 series in the East.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Before we get to the West, I do gotta take a quick commercial break. I want to do that sometime where we say I take a quick commercial break, and you can tell like I pre-recorded it before.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Simmons reading his for like, hey, have you ever just want to chill and have a Heineken or whatever? I haven't listened to Simmons for a while. He used to do those. This is me vamping while I'm trying to find the ad read, guys.
Yeah,
it is for our friends over at DraftKings. They have their new Pick 6 product. It is a pick'em game, pick'em style platform. You choose players to have more or less. You guys should know how these work. They're very nice, especially in states that do not have legal sports betting. If you want to take advantage of some player prop modeling you are doing currently, they have a play 5, get 50. You play $5 for a new customer, you get $50 in credits that are good for a full 365. You don't have to use them the next day if you want to save them for football or something. I'm not sure. You can check it all out at DraftKings. Download the app. Pick Six, it's called. And we'll be back. And then one quick question to answer from Nick C. He's always wondered who signed the balls. The football is signed by Victor Cruz.
Ooh.
The guy who used to salsa, but this baseball is, I got to remember who the third guy is. Oh, Jim Tomei, Justin Morneau, and Jason Kubel. That's just maybe a name people don't remember from Twins lore, but if you add all those up, that's 999 career home runs.
Wow.
So the dream is to meet Bartolo Colon,
Who has one?
have him sign it, and get it to an even 1,000. Yeah, the Tomei one is nice. Like, he has a nice signature for sure. Plus, like, he's a god in several cities. He was such a big dude.
Did Bartolo Colon play with Tomei in Cleveland?
Maybe. Man, they both had very long careers.
Very long.
Tomei played for basically the whole AL Central, man.
That's fun. We got to do a baseball pod coming up. We got to do a tennis pod coming up. We got to do a politics pod. We got to do a soccer pod.
Yeah,
and we got to do some draft pods. We got a lot. All of a sudden, I'm feeling like we're full on.
Morneau quietly won an MVP. So did Maurer. Those were fun. Those autographs were gotten at the terrible city of Detroit, who has a very beautiful baseball stadium. Comerica's gorgeous. I love that. So, all right, back to. I love the Cologne home run. Like, I legitimately am going to watch that on YouTube while Drew's talking. If he gets going too long, I'm going to have that on mute in the background, watching that 3 or 4 times. In the Western Conference, like we mentioned, a little more stacked and racked, especially at the top. Timberwolves, Thunder, Clippers, even the Nuggets. Like, any of those teams could get to, you go on a run, you get to the high 50s and wins. I think I saw. I tried to be the idiot who didn't check on anything, but I did see some tweets that had adjusted post All-Star break win totals. And I said, I wonder where my boys are at. And Wolves and Clippers were both 55.5. And Nuggets and Thunder were 54.5. So essentially, they're saying those 4 teams, all their medians are within a game for the rest of the season, or not for the rest of the season, but their final win totals, which is interesting. We could have some fun races down the stretch here. Yeah. We'll see if the Timberwolves can stop screwing up against bad teams. But overall, it just feels like it's stronger from top to bottom, especially if the Lakers don't end up in.
Yeah,
the Suns have some big names. Obviously, the Pelicans, Mavericks have a couple. And then, the Kings are just a good team. Like, top to bottom, the West is probably better, but like a better playoff series too, I think, right?
Yeah. I don't need to add much. You captured it, I think, very well. No diatribe needed. So you don't get to go watch the Cologne home run. You know what we call that when you have teams bunched like that? 55.5, 55 and 54, 54. We call that a tier. They're all on the same tier. And the delta between any 2 of those teams for me, and we can argue that order, the delta is almost entirely how you price home court, actually. So you're talking 2.5 points for pretty much every one of those matchups independently. So how they ultimately shake out and who gets home court, and assuming they all win their round 1 playoff matchups, is going to shape most of the futures book there. Now, I feel like
I think the Timberwolves home court should be better now. Like, there's been better buy-in. Like, over the years going there, the fans have been better. Like, it is just it's a better class of fans now, especially for the play. I went to 1 playoff game. Can't recommend that enough.
It was the play-in game, wasn't it? Or
I did a play-in game. No, I went to one during the Memphis series.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Good job by you.
That was a Pat Bev game, baby.
I love that.
Two years ago now, but that's a ton of fun.
Okay, so basically the seeding in the West at the top is going to determine a lot. Home court is going to determine a lot. These series are going to be longer. They're going to be more competitive. And there's some X factors here as well, Andy. The 4 teams you named, if you really kind of sorted them by efficiency over the balance of the season, Minnesota, OKC would be at the top. LAC, Denver would be at the bottom.
Total efficiency, offense and defense.
Yeah, net rating, right?
Yeah.
The issue is the top teams have less experience than the bottom teams. And you'll remember this mattered in the NFL. It matters in the NBA every year. It matters in the NBA a lot every year. And you have teams like Oklahoma City Thunder who kind of check every box for being an absolute truck in the West.
Except for they're all like 21.
None of them have ever played in a playoff series in their lives. And so are they just going to pee themselves, or are they going to have like moments like they're kind of shaped the closest that I can remember to the 2022 21-22 Grizz. You remember that team that got the 2 seed, and they had the team that they knocked you guys out. Wait, that was
there was a lot, because the Timberwolves hadn't been, you know, that team was young, hadn't been, like, there was a lot of pants shitting in that series in general.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Both teams could do some serious pants shitting, no question. So I would say the general potential here is that you have inexperienced rear its ugly head, and the Thunder don't achieve what they should from a talent standpoint. Very possible. Mark Daigneault never gone through the rigors of coaching and adjusting and having the right answers. You have a couple of veterans on that team, like Lou Dort, who could potentially hijack a game or two, and just shoot themselves out of the game, right? Like, that's definitely on the cards. It's going to happen once this playoffs. I can pretty much promise you. Whether it matters or not, I don't know. But they're a really good team, and my number, here's what happens, right? The difference in price to win the West between these teams is massive. Massive. Your defending champion Nuggets are currently slight dogs to the Clippers to win the West. I agree with that 100%. They should be dogs to the Clippers to win the West. The third choice to win the West is the Timberwolves. The third choice is the Suns. The fourth choice is the Timberwolves. And a fifth choice, we're the huge difference, huge delta here. Plus 250 for the Nuggets, plus 800 for the Thunder. A team that is better than them on a talent standpoint. And I mean, I get it. I kind of agree. And I think ultimately Grizzlies type of experience from 2 years ago, where they beat some good team in the round one. They got all the confidence in the world. They should be favored over a team that they're better than in round 2, like the Nuggets, but fumble the bag. Like, that's kind of how this probably goes. And so I don't think in good conscience you can bet the Thunder. I could see them losing in the 1-4 to the Nuggets, in the 1-4, in the 1-5 to the Suns. The Mavericks could give them hell. Like, there's a lot of teams that I think are rostered well to really kind of test them big time. And so,
that's what I was looking at.
You got to pass them, even though the price is awesome.
Anywhere, the Thunder could be the 4th seed, and then let's just say it's 4th seed against the Nuggets or Suns. I don't know, how do you feel about the Suns coach? I was going to say,
don't really have a good read at all on Vogel.
I was going to say, but more experienced coaching staffs, obviously way more experienced players, but even down to the Mavericks or Pelicans. Basically everybody. Like, there's no matchup where it's like, oh, this team just hasn't. I guess the Kings a little, but there's not a lot of teams where it's like, these guys haven't really been here either, especially in the second round. Like, then you're fine.
Yeah. The problem with the Suns is that they don't really have here's why I haven't thought hard about Vogel. You ready for this? I don't think it fucking matters, because he can't really do anything. But like, with the pieces he's got, he's just got to kind of hope they play good, right? Like, there's not like an answer where he can be like, all right, you know what we need? Kevin Durant, more usage. Booker, more usage. That's who they are already. Like, there's no like knobs for him to turn, right? Daigneault and the Thunder, like, I'm not even exactly sure what your best closing 5 is right there. for that team. We've seen some some high leverage moments at the end of the games for the Thunder where they've like drawn up plays for Isaiah Joe, and now they have Gordon Hayward in the mix. Is he that guy now that they're drawing up open looks for in the corner, right? Does he make those shots? Does he have that shot in his bag anymore? I don't know the answer. So the uncertainty around the Thunder is a lot bigger than what we got around any of those, kind of market leaders right now. And, I've kind of thrown my lot in here with the Clippers for what it's worth, because I think what they have in a coach in Ty Lue and what they have in a closing five with four guys that can create off the ball plus an elite rim defender is pretty important. And so I think ultimately they're rostered kind of perfectly to get through a crowded West.
This is a complete aside, almost as if I ignored everything you just said, because it struck me as something like, who is the coach right now that is newish in the league and everyone is just kind of like, this guy ain't gonna make it, or this guy he's coaching a good team and that's the only reason they're playing good? Because it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe Spoelstra not as much, but it feels like Spoelstra and Lou early in their careers, I don't think people ever thought they'd be where they're at, especially Ty Lue. Like he was, ridiculed a bit early on. Like he was just a guy who showed up with LeBron.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I need to figure out the next one.
Who's the next guy you want to buy your stock super duper low?
Yeah, I want to plant the flag on. I'll tweet so I can retweet myself in like 3 years. Like,
honestly,
man, I was so early on this guy.
If I had to make a bet, it's probably Will Hardy. He's the coach of the Jazz. He's done some things and he's developed some players in ways that I think shows that he's got kind of Spoelstra arc to his career. But Spoelstra got to be with way more talent way earlier.
Yeah, and he had a good team to start.
Yeah, and he had Pat Riley tutelage. Will Hardy's getting Danny Ainge tutelage. So we'll see. Yeah.
You're from Boston. You can't shit on Danny Ainge. Fair. All right.
Yeah, so it's probably Will Hardy. Anyway,
so we need to decide on how this first four lands, so we can talk a little serious prices.
Honestly, like they're all the same. Like okay. Minus one, like the biggest spread I would have is about -160. And
we need a name for this tier.
The narrowest I would have would be a pick'em. But yeah,
the Lakers
is round ones. Yeah.
Are the Lakers going to sort it out, make the play-in? They'll make the play-in, but
I think, can they beat the Kings for that 8th spot? Yeah.
It feels like they have a guy who can probably ramp it up a little, especially if they give him some rest. Like, so they can probably in one game. It's still, I know go look at his numbers, and it's not, peak LeBron, but in one game where you need to have it, it feels like he could fuck you up. And I don't care how good the Kings are. I'm not a basketball bettor.
Yeah,
but
you're talking about the reigning in-season tournament champion.
I mean,
LeBron James. He's got 6. He's got 5 rings, 6 rings. I've lost count.
Whenever we get to a weird spot, like we're in a bubble, or we have a in-season tournament, or we have a play-in tournament, he's gonna take it. He's gonna take it to the next level. So I'm putting the Lakers as the 8th seed.
You got some great characters in the West for sure. And there's no one that's obvious to knock out to make it better. It's just going to be good fun. I don't know who's going to get in. If I had to bet, I would bet the Lakers over the Warriors, but that's just because I have kind of a lost confidence in the Warriors pretty aggressively. But the market has not lost confidence in the Warriors, Andy. Circa has Golden State -6 tomorrow hosting the Lakers. So if that's your 9-10, best of luck to LA.
MJ 0 in season.
0. Never. He's never won a bubble ring either.
He's never won a bubble ring.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, honestly, like the market is telling you it's Golden State, not LA. I don't know, man. Like,
doesn't matter. Like, if one of those teams, the only fun one is 7, and it wouldn't be 7 straight games. It'd be more like 4 or 5, but like 5 or 6 games at the Forum in a row. Clippers, Lakers.
It's crypto. You mean crypto.com?
I'm calling it the Forum.
At the crypt.
Yeah, we're calling it the Forum because we have respect for that building.
Okay.
But it is the Crypt now. But
Yeah.
that sounds fun. Like, plus,
Um,
when's the last time the Clippers and Lakers were both good? Were the Clippers in the ABA ever?
I mean,
Is that a thing?
in the bubble, that was we were
Oh,
expecting
yeah.
that. We were
Yeah.
expecting that to be the Western Conference Finals, and if the Clippers don't collapse against the Nuggets, that is your Western Conference Finals in the bubble.
That was was Claw there yet?
Yeah.
So that was
might
like
have been
his first year
as a
there. It was like, oh
yeah.
shit, this team could be good, and then it just
Yeah.
never materialized. I remember
Dude,
that.
I mean, the Western Conference playoff matchups is it's like content porn, right? Like
Yeah.
you could have LeBron against Kawhi in the 1-8. You could have LeBron. You could have Jokic against LeBron in the 1-8. You could have Kawhi against Steph in the 1-8. Like that. Like these matchups would be just absolutely electric. I'm neglecting the Kings getting in, which maybe is to my detriment, but I rate the Kings lower than market by a decent amount right now. Like market has them in like the +2-ish range as a rating. Let me look at what my number is because it's not there. I'm at a 0.3 for the Kings, so I'm off market by 2 points for the Kings. And I don't really think that they are going to broadly change my mind between now and then. I do have the Kings rated neutrally higher than the Lakers, and I have the Warriors rated higher than both of them. So maybe the joke is on me.
You got to pick a team and put them in.
Yeah, let's make it the
Again,
Warriors then.
You're so close.
My numbers say it's the Warriors. My numbers say it's the Warriors.
Okay, let's put.
Who do you want him up? Who do you want to match him up against? Clippers.
Timberwolves win the 1 seed.
Kawhi versus Steph for old time's sake.
No, Rudy shutting him down.
Okay, Min, Golden State. I have the Timberwolves in that series as -489. I think realistically, it's probably going to be like -300, -250. LeBron is out tomorrow. How did I miss that? When did that come out? Is that why that's such a huge number? Has he been out for a while? I guess
we need to take a quick break from this.
Yeah.
I keep admitting
I missed that.
I keep getting caught in my web of lies here. Like, I didn't take in any NBA content. I went and had lunch at the bar next door. Just needed to get out of the office, and whatever fucking middle of the afternoon show is on, the bullshit they show on ESPN, it said LeBron is 50-50 on wanting a farewell tour. He says, I don't really take praise like that very well, motherfucker. Who said that with a straight face? Like, and the sound was off. I was dying just reading it. Dude, there's probably going to be a show where you decide if you're doing the farewell tour or not. That'll be televised. Like, you did the decision. Don't give me that shit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I missed the LeBron out news, so apologies.
That happened after we started the pod.
Yeah, I did not know
that. If he's out, we're putting the Warriors in the 8th seed then.
Warriors are in the 8th seed. This is the deciding game. Minnesota would be, by my numbers, -490. By market, I would expect you're going to get it's going to tell you bet Timberwolves. And I'm probably going to do it because I bet against the Warriors a lot. And I'm not really afraid of these guys in a best of 7. Not this year. Maybe I'm wrong. They're definitely better than they have been at their lows this year because Draymond Green is back. I don't know if you saw that. Remember, that made meme status, so you definitely saw that.
Suspension.
I don't even remember what he was doing. Was he kicking guys in the nuts or was he throwing punches? It was a weird one. Stepping on chests. It was a
spinning backhand.
That was
back fist. Yeah, he did like UFC moves, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Not great.
All right, so I'm against Warriors. We'll see. If it's OKC, that's even more interesting and more intriguing because my numbers also say the price should be around that. If it's Denver, we saw a Denver Warriors price last year in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, and it was pretty healthy Denver. Was that Denver? No, Lakers beat the Warriors last year. It was 2 years ago that the Warriors did beat the Nuggets, and it was convincing. I'm forgetting. They all mashed together. Anyway, yeah. I mean, the big question in the West is, can Jokic and the Nuggets find their form from last year's playoff run? And also, was their form from last year's playoff run actually signal, or did they just have a really easy path?
Probably, and that's the thing. You're so close in all these, so maybe it doesn't matter, but it feels like in my Rube mind that happens, and I would be annoyed if the And maybe I should look at this from a different. Would you rather play the Nuggets right away, or would you, let's say you're the 1 seed, you're the Timberwolves, you're the Clippers, you're whoever.
Yeah.
Would you rather play them earlier in the playoffs as the 4 seed, or let them get through, 12 games, play themselves into a frothing frenzy, and meet them in the Western Conference Finals? Probably earlier is better. You're gonna have to go through them eventually.
If you're Minnesota, OKC, or LA, you want the Nuggets in the 4 against the Suns in the 5, and then the Suns.
And then you want the Suns to win, yeah.
You want the Suns to
knock
down, drag out, take them 7. Lots of pace in that series, lots of points, and really kind of let the throttle out. Because last year's Suns Nuggets was competitive-ish. The market, if you remember, had the Suns on the road as small favorites in game 1, not in the game, but for the series. Yeah. And that was very wrong. They probably could have swept, but then it got competitive, and then ultimately the Nuggets pulled away. Was that Nuggets in 6 or 5? I don't remember. But that Suns team had never played together. They were pretty flawed, and they're still flawed. But that was Nuggets in 6. But now you have a full year of Durant and Booker playing together, and if we're going cards on the table, like every single sign in the universe is telling you this is probably the last run for a lot of these vets, right? This is probably the last run for Durant, where he's even close to his prime. This is probably the last run for Curry, where he's even close to his prime. LeBron, who the fuck knows? Maybe he has 10 more years. I don't know. But a lot of kind of the established vets who are at the top of their game, Harden, Kawhi, Paul George, this might be the only time you ever get to see them in playoffs together. We're definitely kind of at the end of an era for a lot of the known quantities, and they're all in the West, and it's going to be pretty amazing to see who ultimately emerges. And you have new quantities like Doncic and Irving. So it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fun. These matchups are going to fucking rock. I don't really rate the Pelicans. That's maybe the one team that I'm kind of like, weirdly, I bet the Pelicans a lot this year. My numbers keep doing it, and I rate them about 2.5 points better than average. But I don't know, man. I don't get them. I don't think they're realistically a threat. And I'm probably maybe I'm writing them off too soon in a 3-6 matchup against whoever. But slightly in Clippers for me in the West. I bet the Clippers to win the West. I bet the Clippers to win the title. And the prices are kind of gone-ish, but
are there prices for the 1 seed to secure the top seed? Is that something?
Not big liquid markets. Yeah, not big liquid ones. At DraftKings, you can probably get that. Oops, excuse me. At our sponsor, DraftKings, you can find
it is what it is.
You can find 1 seed markets.
DraftKings isn't taking huge bets on stuff like that. Probably, anyone who has it up isn't. That's more of a, like you said, a rec book market.
Yeah.
No, we're not sponsored by DraftKings. We're sponsored by DraftKings Pick 6. It's a whole different thing. Pick 6.
Cool.
I don't know. What else do you have on the West then? What if we end up? What is your most likely? Because I'm sure you've run the permutations of. There's so many different combos of 1 through 4. Most likely Western Conference Finals. And is it probably just Nuggets, Clippers? Someone has to be the 4. Someone has to be the 4 in this, and they can't get through. 2-3. The 2-3 is going to be so good.
It's probably Nuggets, Clippers.
Okay.
But that could be your 3-4. That could be your 1-3 also. My gut wants to say the Thunder are going to put a couple series together here before ultimately running into the buzzsaw that is the Clippers in playoff mode. Clippers, by the way, if you're listening to this now and you're kind of into NBA at all, there's a must-watch game tomorrow between the Thunder and the Clippers. It's going to be massively instructive as far as how those teams match up. I really don't know. I'm on Thunder.
Maybe that's a better question. What would you not as a bettor who would have good angles and like something by game 5, we can have some definite angles on these totals. But like as a fan, what would you prefer to watch in the Western Conference Finals?
Thunder Clippers.
Okay. Mine would be Timberwolves Lakers. I mean, there was like massive injuries, maybe even like kind of looking at who else could make it. Like who's like the 10 spot right now? Yeah, like Timberwolves Jazz, I could get behind. Timberwolves Rockets, I would enjoy. Timberwolves is like a -1,000 favorite.
Not gonna happen, yeah. I mean, honestly, like I don't want to burst your bubble, and I hope the
I
like,
know.
Look. Here's the thing. Like, I kind of don't get the Timberwolves. I kind of don't understand how they're.
Nobody
doing
does.
This.
They're doing it on defense, and then they just somebody steps up offensively, and then late in the game they bring in Nasrid, for like his second stint, and he just puts up like 10 points quick, and then the role players fill the roles nicely, and Ant every other game Ant has a big game. Rudy has a 20 rebound game.
You know who this sounds like? Those Rudy's Jazz teams when they were good. And that those teams never inspired in the playoffs ever. So I kind of like
Ant.
They had Donovan Mitchell.
He wasn't in an Adam Sandler movie.
A very similar player
in terms
of impact. All right.
I'm just talking Homer at this point now.
Okay. Well, I look, man. It's one tier. The margins are narrow. A 1 seed for the Wolves absolutely gives them the best possible matchup in round 1, and probably gives them a better track in rounds 2 and 3 because of the home court. Because like that's the thing about Denver, and the reason that Denver fiddle fucking around is kind of a problem for them is that it's
shitty 1-4.
Yeah, it sucks going to altitude, right? Yeah. Like that sucks. And if you only had to do it twice in a best of 7, then that's great for you. If you got to do it 3 times, you at least game 7's on your home floor, right? Like, it's a huge advantage, home court at altitude, and the Nuggets are kind of squandering it by not playing very well. So we'll see if they turn it around. I mean, they have a big game tomorrow too. Actually, no, they don't. They play Washington. They're 15-point favorites. I take that back. They have some good. They have some good.
I can tell you, Washington's bad.
They have some good games coming up in a little bit. But yeah, Clippers, Oklahoma City Thunder. If I had to put my absolute reputation online, I think that's probably going to be your Western Conference Finals. And tomorrow is a preview with Oklahoma City as 2-point favorites at home. I make it 2.5. I know I'm high on Clippers relative to market, so I think that's a bet on OKC at 2. And that's going to be, again, I watch the regular season, get a little skin in it if you're going to bet the playoffs, because that forces you to really kind of understand and pay attention to rotations and adjustments and coaching tendencies and specific matchup nuances that you're not going to be able to tease out of the data. That's my pitch for watching NBA.
Gotcha.
And it's much better than watching kids miss free throws.
I know. I don't know if I have volleyball tournament this weekend. I'm already getting burnt out on that. I haven't decided if I'm gonna drive. It's a little further. I do love just like driving and getting away from everybody and just listening to like podcasts. Like Chicago's one thing, but Indy's got to be like 8 hours.
That's a long drive.
That's a haul. I might have to fly. But I think I'm going to head down to the combine next week.
So hell yes. Next year or next week?
Next week. A bunch of people are down there.
See Frank Branks going?
Yeah, I've been DMing the shit out of him about what we're going to do. We're going to be trending down there probably.
Try to hook up with Judah too. He'll be there.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to I'm basically going to reach out to anyone I see that's down there. I talked to the good Dr. Eric from Sumer Sports.
Oh yeah. I had drinks with him and dinner with him in Vegas. It was fantastic. He rocks. Introduced me to Aaron Schatz, also a very nice guy. It is an 8-hour drive from Rochester to Indy, buddy.
I bet I can do it in 7 in a full size pickup. Yeah, and also too, I'm trying to. Well, we'll see. I got to talk to them again. I'm trying for some media credentials, but I don't know what I would do with them. I don't want to go interview anybody. I just want to watch and then go network and go to dinner with people. So if you are in Indy or near it, know this: like, you can just go to the combine as a fan. You download an app that is basically their way of making you sign a waiver. And once you have that app, you can just go in and watch the combine, like because it's a fucking football stadium. There's so much room. So if you are around there and you've never done that, fucking see you there, buddy.
Come on down. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have the laptop. I'm gonna just be writing content from what is it called? Lucas Oil Stadium, baby. Yeah,
Nice,
I'll be hand timing. I should find I should find one of those old ones with like the buttons like this.
Are we gonna get markets on
40 times? We'll look into it. We'll look into it. Last year I was only able to do it really on Prize Picks.
Yeah.
The year before they had I remember years ago, this would have been 4 years now. They had one from Lamar, and he ended up not running because he didn't want to. A fast time would have just exacerbated the issues around people wanting to be a wide receiver. So that one was a refund. But I've bet some 40 times that Bet Online back in the day used to have a few. Those guys don't want to put those up because those are such shitty informational markets. They're just going to get hosed on. A bunch of money's going to come one way right at the end when people have figured it out. And I mean, that's what happened. I mean, we had some people slip us some times that they thought were good, and I had a 5-legger on Prize Picks get home pretty easily. So, but you can't bet $1 million on this sort of stuff, but it's still fun. Realizing there's this one wide receiver that I've never watched play a game, and I need him to run over 4.53, and then he does it. And all right, but he has to run again. You're just waiting because it's an hour later. It is it's a fun sweat.
All right, man. Well, that sounds fun as hell. Do you want to talk NFL next week then? NFL draft process?
Yeah, let's talk about what markets are currently up and kind of talk process, and we'll talk the process and what's going to happen to some of those.
Okay. Very cool.
When we get to the combine, because of what happened last year when one certain freak from Florida kind of went freaky on it, and everybody bet him.
I like it.
Actually, turned out to be right for most of the over-unders.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, there was also the Jalen Carter incident pre-combine. Sure.
His
number got nuked. Yeah.
It was a very
great question by Benson. Where am I on Mount Tam cheese? Dude, anything from Marin County is worthy. If Mount Tam is incredible, if you ever see Nicasio Valley cheese, that's my go-to Marin County cheese. But Mount Tam is amazing. Amazing.
One last story about that. Because a lot of the wine tastings, we would order a cheese plate too.
Yeah, that's as one does.
Had some pretty good cheese, but I had to pretend not to like it too much because my brother and his wife, they now work and someday will probably own a Wisconsin dairy farm.
Ooh.
A multi-generation Wisconsin. So there's a bit of it's Pac and Biggie, East Coast, West Coast, California cheese, Wisconsin cheese.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to this is good, but I would rather have the stuff from La Crosse, that's a good creamery, guys. You had to play it down a little. Fuck, there was some good hard. I like a good hard cheese, and there were some really good ones.
Fantastic. All right, guys, we'll answer questions next time. Let's wrap it up. It's been an hour and a half. Thank you for spending your time with us. Hope you enjoyed the show. And with that, let's play the outro. Did you buy any wines and take them home? You usually ship.
I know. We ended up not. We bought a couple, but just drank them at the Airbnb. Actually, we brought one to the restaurant.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't white.
It was the best meal you had.
What's that?
It was the best meal.